Martha and Leonard had lived in their quaint suburban home for over 40 years, a house filled with decades of memories, laughter, and quiet evenings. Their garden, modest but lovingly tended, was their pride, a sanctuary of roses and tulips that had bloomed season after season. Life had been peaceful until the arrival of the new neighbor, Vincent Carlyle, a man in his late 30s with sharp suits, sharper eyes, and a temperament that radiated entitlement. At first, he had greeted them politely, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, but it didn't take long for the cracks to appear. It started with small things: a snide comment about their overgrown bushes, a remark about their fence being slightly crooked, a glare that lingered a second too long. Then, one summer afternoon, Vincent stormed across the property line like a man on a mission, slamming his fist against the fence, demanding they trim back the hedges that, according to him, encroached upon his pristine lawn. Leonard, a retired carpenter with hands calloused from a lifetime of honest work, calmly explained that the hedges had been there for decades, planted long before Vincent arrived, that the property line had been surveyed and confirmed legally. Vincent scoffed, mocking their age, their perceived weakness, and threatened to sue them, his voice sharp and venomous. Martha, her heart pounding, felt anger rise like a tidal wave, but more than that, a protective instinct over their home, over the life they had built. The couple tried reasoning, sending letters, consulting neighbors, but Vincent's bullying escalated, growing more personal, attacking Leonard's retirement, Martha's frailty, calling them obstacles to his perfect property. One evening, after another confrontation where Vincent had banged on their door, spewing threats, Martha sat in her living room and cried quietly, Leonard holding her hand, whispering that they would find a way, that justice, even if slow, could be theirs. Leonard had never sought confrontation in his life, but Vincent awakened a part of him he had buried, a relentless, calculated resolve. Over the next few weeks, Leonard began meticulously documenting everything: photographs of the property line, video recordings of Vincent's outbursts, copies of municipal records, interviews with neighbors who had witnessed the bullying. Every snide remark, every shove, every threat was catalogued. Martha, initially hesitant, became his partner in this quiet war, secretly collecting evidence of Vincent's own violations, illegally dumping yard waste on public land, allowing his aggressive dog to roam freely and intimidate other neighbors, violations that could be leveraged if necessary. But Leonard knew that mere documentation would not satisfy the simmering need for justice, for retribution against a man who thought age and kindness equated to weakness. One night, Leonard, sitting at his desk under the dim glow of a lamp, devised a plan that required patience, cunning, and a deep understanding of Vincent's character. Vincent thrived on control, on intimidation, on the image of perfection he projected to the neighborhood. The first step was subtle. Leonard anonymously reported the dog violations and the illegal dumping to city authorities, sending exact dates and photographs. Vincent, incensed but unaware of the source, spent weeks defending himself, his veneer of control cracking as fines accumulated. Next, Leonard discovered that Vincent had been neglecting some building codes on his property, extensions to his garage, and a deck that had no permit. Quietly, Leonard submitted detailed reports, citing municipal code numbers and exact infractions. Vincent received notice after notice, his reputation in the neighborhood quietly tarnished as whispers began circulating about his disregard for rules. But Leonard didn't stop there. Understanding Vincent's obsession with appearances, he befriended a few of Vincent's business associates under false pretenses, planting seeds of doubt about his professionalism, his reliability, his temperament. Emails and casual remarks painted Vincent as a man prone to irrational rage, a man whose temper could jeopardize contracts. Vincent, desperate to maintain his image, lashed out more violently at Martha and Leonard, each confrontation secretly recorded by strategically placed cameras Leonard had installed in plain sight under the guise of home security. The recordings captured not just the threats, but the increasingly erratic behavior, giving Leonard undeniable leverage. Weeks turned into months, and Leonard's strategy unfolded like a masterful chess game. He presented the evidence to a local mediator and, when that failed, to a property dispute attorney who sent a meticulously crafted cease and desist letter outlining Vincent's repeated harassment, his code violations, and the legal consequences if he persisted. The letter landed like a thunderbolt, Vincent's confidence shattered. The man who had once strutted across the property line, with fists clenched now hovered nervously, unsure of his next move. But the final act of Leonard's plan was the most satisfying. During a neighborhood association meeting, Leonard subtly orchestrated the revelation of Vincent's actions. The unpermitted construction, the public complaints, the dog incidents, all laid bare before the community. Gasps echoed, neighbors nodded knowingly, and Vincent's red face betrayed a mixture of rage, embarrassment, and disbelief. Leonard and Martha, composed and dignified, sat silently, their victory quiet but profound. Vincent, stripped of control, humiliated publicly yet legally powerless to retaliate without further incriminating himself, retreated into silence, his aura of entitlement forever tarnished. Martha felt tears prick at her eyes, not from sadness, but from the triumph of justice achieved through patience, intelligence, and unwavering determination. The couple returned to their home, their garden now a fortress not just of flowers, but of resilience, a testament to a lifetime of love, endurance, and now, carefully executed revenge. The hedges stood tall, the fence firm, and Martha and Leonard walked hand in hand through their yard, the sun setting behind them, knowing that evil, no matter how brazen, could be outsmarted, and that courage, even in the elderly, was a force to be reckoned with. In the weeks that followed, Vincent moved away, unable to withstand the collective scrutiny and legal pressure, leaving the neighborhood whispering of the couple who had stood their ground. Leonard and Martha became local legends, symbols of quiet strength, their story retold at block parties and social gatherings, a tale of patience, strategy, and the sweet satisfaction of justice served. But beyond the whispers and admiration, the greatest reward for Leonard and Martha was intangible: peace. The kind of peace that comes not from the absence of conflict, but from knowing that right had prevailed, that kindness had been defended, and that no amount of entitlement, no measure of intimidation, could rob them of their home, their dignity, or their years of love woven into every corner of their property. And so, the couple continued their lives, tending their garden, sipping tea on the porch, greeting neighbors with genuine smiles, their spirits unbroken, their hearts full, and their story etched into the quiet history of the street as a testament to resilience, cunning, and the enduring power of standing up against those who believe they are above the rules, above morality, and above decency. In the end, Vincent's arrogance was his undoing, and Leonard and Martha's calculated courage ensured that the house, the memories, and the peace they had built over decades would remain theirs, untouched and victorious, a fortress of justice in a world that sometimes forgets that the meek are not always weak, and that patience and intelligence can exact a revenge far sweeter than rage. Months had passed since Vincent had retreated in humiliation, yet the scars of his intimidation still lingered in Martha's and Leonard's hearts. The neighborhood had returned to a fragile peace, but Leonard knew true security required more than just legal victories. He spent evenings reinforcing the boundaries of their property, installing new locks, upgrading security cameras, and creating a subtle barrier of landscaping that made it nearly impossible for anyone to trespass unnoticed. Martha, meanwhile, had transformed her grief and lingering anger into a quiet strength, organizing community meetings and forging alliances with neighbors who had also suffered from Vincent's manipulations. One particularly stormy night, as rain pounded against the windows, a letter slid under their door, the envelope slick with water. Leonard picked it up with a sense of dread and found a single sheet of paper, scrawled with uneven handwriting. "This isn't over. You've won today, but tomorrow will be mine." A chill ran through them. Vincent wasn't gone. He was lurking, scheming in shadows. Leonard's mind raced, recalling every detail he knew about the man's pride and obsession with control. He and Martha huddled at the kitchen table, poring over city maps, photographs of the property, even surveillance footage. They noticed small details they hadn't before. Vincent's patterns of obsession with perfection, his predictable routes through the neighborhood, the times he liked to check on properties. It was then that Leonard formulated the next stage, preemptive revenge. If Vincent wanted a battle, they would give him one he couldn't fight with threats or intimidation. Leonard and Martha began a meticulous campaign to quietly expose Vincent's vulnerabilities while keeping their own lives intact. It started small. Anonymous tips to local inspectors about minor violations Vincent had been ignoring, coupled with precise photographic evidence. A light in his unpermitted garage extension flickered. A broken fence post reported to the association. A complaint about his loud, uncontrolled dog filed with the city. Vincent grew restless, pacing his mansion late at night, sending terse emails to neighbors, trying to reassert control, but every action he took only dug him deeper into public scrutiny. Meanwhile, Leonard and Martha had begun documenting Vincent's finances discreetly, uncovering unpaid fines and overdue permits, using them as leverage in quiet conversations with neighborhood officials and city planners. The couple didn't just defend themselves. They built a fortress of influence, weaving a web that left Vincent isolated, vulnerable, and paranoid. One evening, Leonard invited a few trusted neighbors to a seemingly casual gathering, subtly presenting the narrative of Vincent's repeated abuses, framed as concern for the community. Videos, photos, and anecdotal evidence made their case irrefutable. Whispers spread, and Vincent began to find doors closed where once they had been open, contracts delayed, favors denied. Panic crept into his every interaction, a stark contrast to the arrogance he had worn like armor. But the final blow would come from a clever, audacious move. Leonard orchestrated a neighborhood inspection of Vincent's property during a planned community block party. Everything was timed. Inspectors appeared exactly when Vincent was hosting a small gathering of his own, a perfect storm of witnesses and evidence. Fines were issued on the spot, neighbors recorded the debacle, and Vincent's veneer cracked completely. Leonard and Martha watched from across the street, silent and composed, as Vincent's face drained of color, a man undone by his own hubris. After the chaos subsided, the couple returned home to their quiet, secure sanctuary. The neighborhood began to see Leonard and Martha not just as survivors, but as champions of justice, a beacon for anyone facing bullying, intimidation, or harassment. Yet, in the quiet of their home, the couple understood a profound truth. Revenge, though satisfying, was only a tool, a means to protect what was theirs. It was vigilance, courage, and unity that ensured lasting peace. Leonard and Martha's bond deepened, forged in fire and perseverance. Their evenings returned to simple joys, tending the garden, sipping tea on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The hedges were pruned perfectly, the fence straight and strong, a silent testament to their victory. Vincent, having fled town under the weight of scrutiny, fines, and embarrassment, became a distant memory, a cautionary tale whispered in the streets. But Martha and Leonard's story endured, a narrative of resilience, strategy, and the unshakable power of standing firm against those who believe cruelty and entitlement can overpower decency. Every flower in their garden, every creak of the floorboards, every corner of the house seemed to whisper a victory, a reassurance that the couple had not only defended their home, but their dignity, their love, and their lives. And so, life continued, peaceful yet alert, joyful yet vigilant, with Leonard and Martha forever aware that the world contained those who would try to bully, but also knowing that patience, intellect, and unyielding courage could transform fear into triumph, threats into opportunity, and oppression into the sweetest form of justice imaginable. Vincent's retreat from the neighborhood was not the end he imagined. It was only the beginning of his obsession. From a rented apartment several miles away, he plotted quietly, nursing humiliation like a poison in his veins. He had lost face, credibility, and control, and the thought of Martha and Leonard, the elderly couple who had outsmarted him at every turn, became an obsession he could not ignore. Every night, he pored over city maps, surveillance footage he had secretly captured, and neighborhood layouts, planning how he could strike back, reclaim what he thought was his territory, and finally crush the couple who had humiliated him. But Vincent underestimated Leonard. Months of careful preparation had sharpened Leonard's instincts. He sensed the shift in the air, the subtle signs that Vincent had not disappeared but was calculating his next move. Leonard and Martha began adding layers to their defense, turning their home into a fortress of both physical security and social influence. New cameras were installed with AI detection, lights were automated to create the illusion of constant presence, and neighborhood alliances were strengthened, ensuring that anyone approaching the property would be noticed immediately. Vincent's first attempt came subtly. A delivery man, hired by Vincent under a false identity, approached their property with a large, suspicious package. Leonard, observing from his surveillance system, intercepted the situation before anyone could be endangered. The package contained nothing dangerous, just a psychological taunt, a note, scribbled with venomous handwriting. "This time, I will not be fooled." Leonard calmly photographed the evidence, notified the police of harassment, and forwarded the material to city authorities. But Vincent's next move escalated the danger. Late one night, under cover of darkness, he tried to tamper with the boundary fence, cutting a small section with wire cutters to test if the couple would notice. The cameras captured the act in high resolution, and Leonard, watching remotely, quietly called the authorities. The police arrived in minutes, catching Vincent in the act. The man's shock and rage were palpable, and he was arrested for trespassing and attempted vandalism. But Leonard and Martha knew that legal victories alone would not suffice to end the threat. Vincent's obsession had become dangerous, and they needed a final strategy to neutralize him completely. Leonard devised a brilliant plan, psychological as well as legal. He anonymously leaked to the media a detailed exposé of Vincent's harassment campaigns, his obsession with controlling neighbors, his pattern of intimidation, and previous code violations. The story was written with precision, focusing on facts, evidence, and documented incidents, avoiding any embellishment that could be legally challenged. The exposé went viral in the neighborhood and citywide, turning Vincent into a cautionary tale of entitlement, obsession, and public humiliation. Faced with the combined weight of public scrutiny, legal consequences, and the undeniable documentation of his harassment, Vincent crumbled completely. He attempted one last confrontation, sending emails filled with threats and desperate pleas for reconciliation, but each message was meticulously archived by Leonard, adding to the growing legal case against him. Ultimately, Vincent was forced to sell his mansion at a significant loss, leaving town under court supervision. His reputation ruined, his resources depleted, and his pride shattered, he became a ghost in the community's memory, a lingering reminder of arrogance defeated by strategy and courage. Leonard and Martha returned fully to their lives, their home now not just a sanctuary, but a monument to resilience. Their neighbors celebrated them quietly, respecting the couple who had faced intimidation with dignity, patience, and intelligence. Martha's hands, once trembling with fear, now moved confidently in the garden, pruning roses and tulips with care, each snip a quiet victory. Leonard's hands, once clenched in anger, now rested calmly on the fence they had defended with honor. The neighborhood, once tense and divided by Vincent's intimidation, became close-knit and vigilant, inspired by the couple's unwavering courage. Children played freely, neighbors greeted each other warmly, and a sense of collective safety emerged, nurtured by the bravery of two people who refused to be bullied. In the evenings, Leonard and Martha would sit together on the porch, sipping tea, the setting sun casting golden light across the garden that had survived threats, schemes, and danger. They spoke rarely of Vincent, for the story of their triumph was written in every flower, every pruned hedge, every strengthened lock, and in the quiet smiles of the community around them. The couple had learned a powerful lesson. Revenge is not born of rage alone, but of strategy, patience, and unyielding courage. By standing firm, documenting evidence, leveraging allies, and thinking several steps ahead, they had turned the tide against a man who believed he was untouchable. And in that victory, they discovered a deeper truth. The greatest revenge is not destruction, but restoration, restoring peace, dignity, and life to a home and a heart that had been threatened, and proving that even in the face of relentless intimidation, wisdom, resilience, and courage will always prevail. Life, now calm and deeply cherished, continued for Martha and Leonard with a renewed sense of purpose. The garden flourished as never before, a living testament to their perseverance. Their story became quietly legendary, a narrative shared among neighbors, inspiring vigilance and hope. And though the memory of Vincent's threats lingered like a shadow, it no longer frightened them. Instead, it served as a reminder that the meek are not always weak, and that even against a relentless adversary, justice, patience, and courage can orchestrate a revenge more profound than any act of aggression, a revenge that restores not only one's home and heart, but the balance of an entire community, ensuring that peace and dignity endure, unshakable and eternal. Despite Vincent's departure, Leonard and Martha remained vigilant, knowing that a man so consumed by obsession might return in some form, even if only to sabotage from afar. Late one autumn evening, Leonard noticed unusual activity on the edge of their property, shadows moving near the tree-line, a flash of reflective material. He quietly alerted Martha, and together they monitored the situation through their upgraded security system. It was Vincent. Against all logic, he had returned, more desperate, more dangerous, determined to reclaim what he believed was his. But Leonard had anticipated this moment, turning Vincent's obsession into his ultimate trap. The couple coordinated with neighbors, law enforcement, and even city officials to stage a controlled environment that would expose Vincent completely without risking harm. They created a scenario where Vincent's attempt to sneak onto their property would be captured on multiple cameras, each angle clear and undeniable. Leonard planted subtle cues to guide Vincent toward an area under surveillance, ensuring no witnesses could be missed. Vincent, blinded by rage and desperation, fell right into the setup, his every move documented meticulously. Security cameras, hidden lights, and motion sensors revealed him climbing the fence, tampering with hedges, and speaking threats aloud. Within minutes, police officers, pre-informed and waiting discreetly nearby, arrived to apprehend him without confrontation. Leonard and Martha watched from the porch, tension coiling in their stomachs, until they saw Vincent handcuffed, his face pale and desperate, the embodiment of hubris defeated. The evidence they had collected over months became the cornerstone of a decisive legal case. In court, Vincent faced multiple charges: trespassing, vandalism, harassment, and repeated violations of municipal codes. The judge, reviewing the overwhelming documentation and the community's testimonies, sentenced Vincent to a significant fine, a probation period, and mandated psychological counseling, ensuring that he could never again terrorize the neighborhood. The ruling felt like a victory, but for Leonard and Martha, it was more than legal triumph. It was closure. With Vincent permanently removed from their lives, the couple returned to their home, their sanctuary intact. The garden, once a battleground of intimidation and fear, now symbolized resilience, perseverance, and justice. Neighbors approached cautiously at first, then with warmth and admiration, sharing smiles, stories, and quiet celebrations of the couple's triumph. Martha found herself laughing more freely, tending roses and tulips with a sense of liberation, while Leonard repaired the fence one final time, each plank a testament to patience and careful planning. Life returned to a rhythm of quiet joy, punctuated by evenings of tea on the porch, storytelling, and the comforting certainty that their home, their peace, and their dignity had been preserved. Yet, beyond the physical victory, Leonard and Martha had learned a profound lesson about the nature of confrontation, strategy, and human resilience. They understood that courage was not loud or brash, but patient, calculated, and relentless. That intelligence combined with determination could overcome even the most persistent adversary. That revenge, when executed with precision and morality, could be transformative, not destructive. As seasons changed, the neighborhood slowly flourished, inspired by the couple's example. Vincent's shadow became a cautionary tale, whispered among neighbors but no longer feared. And in the quiet moments, Leonard and Martha would walk hand in hand through their garden, the sun painting long golden streaks across the flowers and hedges, hearts light, spirits unbroken, knowing that they had not just defended their property, but had rewritten their story, a story of resilience, strategy, and the ultimate, satisfying revenge. In the end, the couple realized that revenge was never about malice. It was about reclaiming what is yours, protecting what you love, and ensuring that those who seek to intimidate and control are met with unwavering resolve. Their home, their memories, and their lives had endured, stronger and more beautiful than ever, a fortress not built of walls alone, but of patience, courage, and justice. And as they watched the sun dip below the horizon, Leonard whispered to Martha, "We did it! Not with anger, not with hatred, but with our minds, our hearts, and our strength." Martha smiled, the weight of months of fear and struggle lifting from her shoulders, and together they stepped into the night, unafraid, triumphant, and free, their story forever etched as a legend of courage, intelligence, and the enduring power of standing firm against injustice. With Vincent permanently removed from the neighborhood, a sense of calm returned, but Leonard and Martha understood that true peace required vigilance and the rebuilding of trust within their community. The couple quietly began mentoring neighbors, sharing strategies for protecting property, documenting harassment, and standing up to intimidation without aggression. They created an informal network of watchful eyes, fostering unity and solidarity that had been absent before Vincent's arrival. Word of their victory spread subtly at first, through hushed conversations, shared stories at neighborhood events, and finally, through social media posts by neighbors who admired their courage and ingenuity. Martha noticed the children playing freely again, no longer cautious of stray dogs or yelling men, and she felt a swelling sense of accomplishment that went far beyond her garden or fence. It was the restoration of a community's sense of safety. Yet even as life seemed to settle, the shadow of what Vincent had represented lingered. The couple received anonymous letters of thanks from other families in similar situations, sharing tales of neighbors being bullied, threatened, or taken advantage of, seeking advice. Leonard and Martha responded carefully, providing guidance, supporting others, and quietly becoming champions of justice in their city. One afternoon, a young family approached the couple, faces anxious but hopeful, asking how they had survived Vincent's harassment. Leonard recounted the strategy of patience, evidence collection, and legal precision, emphasizing the importance of remaining calm and thoughtful. Martha spoke of courage and endurance, of holding fast to dignity in the face of aggression. The young parents listened, wide-eyed, absorbing every detail, and the couple realized their story had evolved from personal revenge into a symbol of resilience, inspiration, and empowerment. Months turned into a year, and Leonard and Martha's home became a sanctuary not only for themselves, but for the community, a place where neighbors gathered, children learned to respect boundaries, and adults found guidance for dealing with bullies and intimidation. Even Vincent, now a distant figure living elsewhere, became a cautionary tale referenced quietly at meetings, a reminder of what arrogance and cruelty can bring. Yet the couple never gloated. Their triumph was measured, dignified, and rooted in justice rather than vengeance. The garden flourished, every bloom a silent testament to endurance. The fence, once a battleground, now symbolized security and the enduring power of standing firm. One spring morning, as Leonard pruned the rose bushes and Martha watered the tulips, they shared a quiet conversation about everything they had endured. "I never imagined someone like him could test us so completely," Martha admitted, her voice calm but reflective. Leonard smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "We didn't just survive, Martha. We protected our home, our memories, and we reminded everyone that courage and intelligence can defeat even the most relentless adversary." The couple's legacy grew steadily. Local newspapers ran stories celebrating the elderly couple who had defended their property against an aggressive neighbor, highlighting their meticulous planning, patience, and calm strategy. They were interviewed on a neighborhood podcast about property rights, community safety, and how to handle bullies with dignity and intelligence. Each appearance reinforced their story as a guide and inspiration for others, further amplifying their impact beyond their immediate neighborhood. Yet perhaps the most profound effect was personal. Leonard and Martha had faced fear, intimidation, and relentless harassment, but they had emerged stronger, more connected, and more confident than ever. Their relationship deepened through adversity, and every moment together, from sipping tea on the porch to tending the garden, was suffused with gratitude, love, and shared triumph. As the seasons cycled, they celebrated victories quietly. A successful block party, a young family overcoming intimidation, children laughing in the park. Their home had become a beacon of hope, resilience, and justice. And although Vincent had tried to break them, to intimidate and control, he had ultimately failed, not through luck, not through aggression, but because Leonard and Martha had chosen patience, strategy, and unwavering courage over rash retaliation. Their story, now shared in whispers, in articles, and through the community's memory, became a living legend, a tale of how the meek are not always weak, how intelligence can overpower aggression, and how courage, even in the elderly, is a force that cannot be underestimated. And so, the couple continued their lives, their hearts light, their spirits unbroken, knowing that every flower in their garden, every plank in their fence, and every neighbor smiling around them was proof of the enduring power of justice, resilience, and carefully executed revenge. Life moved forward, peaceful, vibrant, and full of quiet victories, a testament to the fact that even against relentless intimidation, the human spirit, thoughtful, strategic, and courageous, can triumph in ways far more profound than rage alone could ever achieve. Leonard and Martha had not just survived. They had rewritten the rules of engagement, protected what was theirs, and inspired a community to stand strong, ensuring that the shadow of fear cast by one man's arrogance would never again darken their lives. And as the sun set over the horizon, casting golden light across the garden and the home they had fought to preserve, Leonard held Martha's hand tightly and whispered, "This is ours forever. Not because we fought, but because we were smart enough to win without losing ourselves. We protected ourselves, our memories, and every ounce of dignity we've earned over a lifetime. And in doing so, we've shown everyone that no one, no matter how cruel or entitled, can break what's built on courage and love." In the distance, the neighborhood stirred to life. Children ran freely, neighbors exchanged smiles, and laughter mingled with the rustle of leaves in a perfect harmony. Leonard and Martha realized their victory extended far beyond their property line. Their story had become a living legend, inspiring others to stand firm, document the truth, and defend their own lives with strategy, patience, and courage. Then came a final, unexpected moment of poetic justice. A small plaque, placed by the neighborhood association in secret, appeared near the entrance to the street. In honor of Leonard and Martha, guardians of courage, dignity, and community. The couple, standing together, looked at it and shared a quiet, knowing smile. It was more than recognition. It was a reminder that their struggle, their perseverance, and their careful, unwavering fight had left a mark that would endure far beyond them. And in that moment, the past, the threats, the fear, and the relentless intimidation melted completely away, leaving only triumph, love, and the satisfaction of a life reclaimed. Leonard tightened his hold on Martha's hand. "We've done everything we could," he said, voice full of quiet pride. "Everything with honor, and everything with heart. No one can ever take this from us." Martha smiled, a radiant glow on her face, and whispered, "We didn't just win, Leonard. We set an example. We've shown that courage, patience, and wisdom are the greatest revenge of all." Together, they turned back toward their home, the golden morning sun bathing their garden in light, every flower and tree alive with the story of their victory. Their home stood not only as a place of memories and love but as a fortress of resilience, a beacon to the community, and a lasting reminder that even in the face of relentless intimidation, humanity, intelligence, and courage could prevail. And as they stepped inside, Leonard glanced at Martha, eyes reflecting both love and triumph. "Forever ours," he murmured. "Not just the house, not just the garden, but the life we fought to protect. Forever ours." Martha nodded, the weight of years and battles lifting from her shoulders, replaced by the calm, unwavering joy of victory achieved through strategy, patience, and heart. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the quiet celebration of a life reclaimed, of justice served, and of a legacy that would inspire courage, resilience, and hope for generations to come. And in that timeless moment, Leonard and Martha knew with certainty that true revenge had not been about destroying Vincent, it had been about restoring life, dignity, and love to their world, leaving behind a story that would resonate forever, a story of patience, intelligence, courage, and the ultimate triumph of the human spirit,